My story is about something that we've all experienced, bad haircuts. And in the small town that we used to live in, we didn't have a lot of services. And my husband was trying to become more fluent in Italian, so he went to a town that was about a half an hour away because they had a barber that was run by Italian immigrants, Sicilian immigrants. And he would go there and he would get his hair cut and he would practice Italian. And he would bring our son to get his hair cut there as well. And everything was great until one day he couldn't take my son to get his hair cut. And I said, sure, no problem, I'll do it. So we drove half an hour to get his hair cut. And we went in and I went up to the barber, whose name I later learned was Joe. And I said to him, oh, you know, he wants one of those crew cuts that the boys have now with the bangs that stick out in front. And Joe said, okay. He said, see. So I went and sat down. There was a little partition that was sort of separating the people waiting to have their hair cut and the barber chairs. And I walked around that partition. I sat down and I picked up a magazine and I said, before I look at this, I better check and see how it's going. So I got up, and as I lifted my head up over the partition, I couldn't believe my eyes. Joe was done. He was taking off the cape. He flung the cape off, and my son's auburn locks all fell to the floor. And it kind of looked like he was bald. I was holding his glasses because he wore glasses. And he could tell something was wrong, and I didn't want to give him the glasses. I was sort of clutching them, and I thought, oh my God, this is really bad. And finally I had to relinquish the glasses. He put the glasses on, he immediately, his eyes welled up into tears, and we paid, we got out of there, we were out in the parking lot, we were hugging each other, and we were crying, and my son said, and Monday's picture day. Well, needless to say, we did not order pictures that year because the haircut was that bad. Well, a woman in the parking lot with two young boys saw us crying, and she came running over and she said, oh, don't be sad. That's the haircut that my boys want. And then she paused and she said, but the Catholic school won't let them have it that short. And it didn't make me feel any better, or him. And I just thought, even the Catholics don't want hair that looks like this. So we got home, and when my husband came home, he looked at his head, and he turned to me, he said, didn't you know what a crew cut was? And I said, that is not a crew cut, that is a baldy sour. That is shorter than a crew cut. And he kind of surmised it, and I said, what's Italian for a crew cut or for a baldy sour? And he thought about it for a minute, and he said, testa pelata. It's like bald head or peeled. And then he goes, that about sums it up. So as all bad haircuts go, the hair eventually grows back, and you get over it and you move on. And my husband continued to take him down to the Italian barber and practice his Italian. And then one day, for some reason, one evening, he couldn't do it. He had to have a haircut, and I had to do it again. And I was like so nervous. I said, no, please don't make me do this again. And he said, you'll be fine. All you have to do is go into the barber and say, non troppo corti. And I said, what does that mean? He said, not too short. And I said, okay. So we're driving in the car. For the whole half an hour drive to this barber, I told Jack, don't talk. And I'm gripping the wheel, and I go, non troppo corti, non troppo corti, non troppo corti. Because I don't remember things very well, and I do not have a penchant for languages, so I just kept saying, non troppo corti, and I was getting really, really nervous. But by the time we got there, I had practiced it a lot. So we walked in, and I walked up to Joe, and I said with sort of a flair, I said, non troppo corti. And he said, but see, and he sits down, and he starts to cut the hair. And he thinks that I speak Italian. So he starts to speak to Jackson in Italian through the entire haircut. And Jackson's picked up a little bit of Italian from his father, so he answers little perfunctory answers, which kind of keeps the ruse going even a little more, even though none of us can understand what he's saying. So he finishes, haircut's lovely, Jack is really happy, I give back his glasses, I go to pay. Now the owner did speak English, but he thinks I speak Italian, so he starts to speak to me in Italian, and he says, "12." For me, and I don't know how much that is. So I reach into my wallet and I take out a 20 and I hope it will work. At no point in this, I'm being barraged with Italian, do I want to let on that I don't understand anything that they're saying. So he gives me back my change, I tip Joe, and I just felt so included for that moment. And I turn and I look outside and I see that the sun is setting. And so with a flare I say, "Buonasera," and we went home.